Hi, ladies. Welcome back to Balance Redefined Professional. And we are in our speaking module and so excited. Week 2, and we have fantastic guests today. Our expert speaker guest, and we are so thrilled. Kris Barney, and we are thrilled that she has this real-time stuff to share. She just got back from a speaking assignment. So excited that you guys submitted questions. She's got some great stuff she wants to share. So today she's going to share lots of content. And you guys feel free to put your questions in the chat box on the side. So anytime as she goes along, you got any questions, you just throw them up there. She can see them or I can field them, whatever works better. But this is all about learning and then Q&A. We want to know the nuts and bolts of being a speaker. Woohoo! So that's what you're going to get today. So let me introduce Kris really quickly so we can get to the nuts and the bolts of it. She is the author of the books Leadership from Inside Out and the Basics, 7 Traits to Change Your Life and Your World. And you just had a new book come out.
That's this one.
Leadership Inside Out. Oh, so excited. And would you be the lead? Are you the leader that you would follow? I love that. She is also the vice president of the National Speakers Association Mountain West chapter. We're going to talk about that. We shorten it to NSA, so it's not anything to do. People keep thinking it's NRA. It's not. NSA. Okay? And she's been married to the love of her life, Bill Barney, for 35 years, and she is a woman of 4s. She has 4 amazing children, 4 fantastic in-laws, and 4 beautiful grandchildren.
And so number 5.
Number 5, congrats!
So I'm thrilled.
Exciting. Oh, I hear that is the best. So you ladies, this is a gal who has been there, done that, and she's going to teach us all about it. So Kris, take it away.
Well, I'm super excited to be on here with you guys. I love speaking. And I can tell you there's been years of challenge and struggle, which almost any speaker will tell you. You go through these roller coaster moments in the speaking world. And so I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to share some of my experience and give you some ideas and some different direction on where you're going. I know all of you are at different levels in your business. And from what Connie told me, some of you are already speaking, some haven't spoken at all. And we have a real variety of a real span with this group, but I'm super excited to be here. What questions do you want me to start with?
Let's just kick it right off with if you want to go and start speaking, what are some of the things that you need to know first? So for example, I love some of the questions that you guys submitted. If I want to go professional with speaking, where do I begin? What is the best way to find those gigs? And what are some of the things you need to know as a speaker? What are some of the skill sets that you really need to know in order to get out there, have that presence, and really give your message?
Okay, so the first place, where should you be? How should you be getting out there? And I'm, of course, going to tell you National Speakers Association. I know that it is the best one in the Valley of places to be. It's been the piece that has added the most to my business is by being a part of National Speakers Association. There's a few reasons why. Number 1 is the people that you're going to meet there. You're going to be able to work with other people. You're going to be able to talk to other people, get their ideas. All the people there want to share what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, and they want to hold your hand and help you be successful. So number 1, that's the first thing, is to join NSA. But come and visit, come and see what it's all about, because we bring in a speaker that is out there in the world doing it on a big scale and has some expertise that's going to help you be a better speaker yourself. And so come experience that.
I absolutely second that. Now, if they want to do that, what's the best way for them to come and visit? Because you can come as a guest. And what's the best way for them to join? And this is not, she's the vice president of the chapter, okay? But she's not here looking for that.
I'm not here to force you to come. You get a discount. It's like, I don't know, $25, $30 to come, and that includes dinner. Go to nsamountainwest.org. That's .org. And you can come as a guest. Just put that you're a guest. You get a discounted rate, and you can come and experience it. Once you're there, we can share with you how to become a member, but come and experience it. I have a lot of people that are like, I can't commit to once a month, every month. And so they just pay the price to be there monthly. And you don't have to completely join. There are lots of benefits by joining our group. And again, this is not a sales pitch, but NSA above anything else has been the number one thing for me. Secondly, is who are you hanging out with? If you want to be a speaker, you need to rub shoulders with speakers, because there is a community, there's an involvement. Other speakers refer speakers. People in your life, I have never been referred to speaking gigs from my close friends and associates that aren't speakers, because they're not in the circles of people that are paying for speakers. And so you have to build and develop a friendship and a camaraderie with people that know what you speak on and know what your expertise is, because I'm referred as many times from other speakers as I am from being on the stage and somebody going, I liked that, I want you back.
Perfect.
So get to know speakers and get to know where they hang out and what they do, and get involved in being invited to different things. I just came out with my book, she just said. In fact, today is, it went to my email that they could get it for a discount on the pre-launch. My launch date is actually May 10th. Yay. And with my book, Dan Clark wrote my foreword. That's through NSA. We became friends. Now, Dan Clark and I go way back. I have known him for years. In fact, he was a speaker at an Amway convention when I was in my 20s. And I knew of him. He played football for the same school as my father. So I knew when he got injured. I knew all about it because we watched college football. So Dan wrote the foreword. On the back of my, sorry, I've got pop-ups coming on. On the back of my book, I have endorsements. Every one of them are a speaker, because that's who's written books, that's who's there. They will help spring your business forward in good relationships, in finding someone that will really benefit your situation to be better and to learn and grow and develop as a speaker.
Love that.
On that same note, the best way to find speaking gigs is to go to a group that has speakers. They can tell you different things that are happening. There's a lot of speaking gigs that you'll see all these invitations on Facebook. This is bar none a very great place to start. If you're not experienced or seasoned, start looking at these events and just reach out to people. In fact, recently I reached out to Connie and said, okay, so who's involved in this event? And I was late reaching out to her, but I wanted to know who was in charge of scheduling speakers. And I'd heard great things about this event, but had never been. And I just sent her a private message. Again, I knew a speaker. And I was like, hey, Connie's pictures on this. I had no idea it was actually Connie's event.
Was you got
that makes sense though, but when you can reach out to someone that you see. So I didn't speak this time, but I'll be on Connie's mind next time. And that's how you start that ball rolling. I reach out to several people. Now, most of those that you see are going to be speak for free. And some of those you can sell, maybe a book at the back of the room. Maybe it's, I also teach this program, or I have this or that you could attend also. But people have to see you on a platform. They have to see you on the stage to realize that you're a good speaker. Because you can tell people all day long that you speak and you're a good speaker and you have all this experience, but until they see you speaking, they don't believe you. They want to see you speak. And I can tell you, there is a big range when you're on the stage. There's a great big range of a good speaker versus an excellent speaker.
Okay, I want to ask you really quickly, I want to ask you some points right there, because that is a great point. What are some of the keys that separate people from, wow, they're a good speaker, to, wow, they're a great speaker? What are some of the things that you've seen in your experience?
Okay, one of the things, number one, is body language. I know body language, so I know I watch it a lot, but be aware of your body language. Also, be aware of pacing back and forth. You want to have a reason to walk across and stop. And new speakers walk back and forth because they think they're supposed to move around and they're supposed to do that. And when they're nervous, they do it even more. But watch what you do with your hands and watch how much you're pacing, because pacing is annoying where moving on the stage is powerful.
Mhm.
And so pick a point. When you want to make a really strong point, you want to be center stage and say it with a lot of conviction and authority. When you want to be talking about what's going forward and their future and what's in their past, or you're telling a story for the future or the past, be aware of the future and the past on stage is opposite. So you're going to go to their future and their past. A lot of speakers get that wrong because they're thinking future's on the right and past on the left. Well, you're opposite because you're facing them. And that nobody told me that. I had to learn that. And I can tell you, if you're telling them a story for the future and you're standing in their past, they don't connect, even though they don't know body language. You'll lose part of your audience. So just be aware of some of those things. Be aware how much you use your hands and create gestures so that you're not, I don't know if you can see, but when you put your hands in front of you and close off, you're closing off to the audience. When you fold your arms, you're closing off to your audience. You want to be open. You want big gestures, because from stage, you feel like you're doing a big gesture and it's a little tiny and you look like you don't know how to use your arms and you're a puppet. So you want big gestures and go from your shoulders, speak from deep, learn deep breathing. Never go on stage not hydrated. So the more you can drink, I have speakers all the time, they're like, I don't drink because then I'll have to go pee. Well, you know what? The last thing you're thinking about is going pee while you're on stage.
That's true.
But if you're not hydrated, you get a really dry throat, you can't get words out, you get lightheaded. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate before you go on stage. Your skin looks better, you have a glow about you, you look healthy and strong. Your eyes will have, your whites of your eyes will be clearer. There's just so many different pieces that will help you look better on stage and feel better. You'll have more confidence when you're hydrated because you don't have your body stressing out so much. And that sounds like a little thing, but it's huge. And when you can, take a glass of water on stage. If you forget something, take a drink. It's a great opportunity to just be like, okay, what's the word I'm looking for? Take a little drink. They understand that your voice needs to be lubricated and wet, and you need to wet your whistle. And they're okay with that. And it gives you a chance to calm the nerves if you've got something coming up and you're just like, you're not thinking of the word you want to use. And Connie, does that happen?
Oh yeah. And you need that little moment where you're like, okay, recapture. Okay, got it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And a drink of water is an easy cue for that. Now, if you have to take a drink every 5 minutes,
it's going to be annoying.
In your speech, that's not going to be good. Keep in mind that your audience is only going to be as good as you are. If you're prepared and you've got ways to combat little situations and you're handling it, they're going to handle it all better too. And be authentic and real. Once in a while, you have to be like, when you don't remember that word, and then come back. Now, be professional, but it depends on your audience. Again, know your audience. I've made some notes here, so I'm looking, when I look away, it's my notes. Know your audience. I've had several different instances where people didn't know their audiences and they say something that could be offensive. They say something that could be taken wrong. And they have difficulty coming back to you and being a part of that. And when you know who you're speaking to, whether that's a group of women, now I've spoken to a lot of women's groups. There's a difference between a spiritual conference versus women business owners. There's a difference between women who are very powerful and authoritative versus mothers who want to get through the day with all the difficulties they're having. So know your audience, know what their needs are and how you can best serve them. Now, one of the questions that I kind of want to go into here is that how do you get paid speaking gigs? And that I laughed with Connie before we started and said, okay, that's a cue that everyone wants to know the perfect answer for that. But here's where you got to start. You have to be out there speaking. You have to be on stages. You have to have people see you. That's where it starts. So if you're not speaking yet, start speaking. find places to be. That's chambers, that's the Rotary, that's there's a lot of different clubs. You know, you can speak at eWomen, you can speak at NABO. That was my first paid speaking thing, was actually for a NABO event. Usually you speak for free, but they brought me in from out of state. Keep in mind, 6 weeks before that, I was at this event when I decided I was a speaker. Now, I was already speaking. I was speaking for my church. I was speaking for adoption agency. I was speaking at the hospital, from different experiences I'd gone through with my family, with my kids and adopting my daughter. And so people were bringing me in to speak and to do that. But I reached this point where all my kids left the house and I was an empty nester. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And this conference came up, and it was take your business over 6 figures. Well, I already had a 6-figure business that had nothing to do with speaking. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't know if I need this. But I knew the person putting it on, and it was in Scottsdale, Arizona. And in Arizona was one of my children, and the conference started the day after his birthday. So it was a great excuse for me to fly out, go see my son, and then stay at his house and go to this conference. By lunch the first day, I was a speaker. And I had gone through one of the worst years of our lives with my son with cancer, and I had taken in my nephew. It was 2012, and we had just a ton of things going on. And they just wanted to hear my story. At lunch, everybody was like, well, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, this is what I have been doing until 2 weeks ago. And now here I am with no kids. And they're like, why are you not speaking? It was so motivational and so powerful to hear my story. So find out what your story is. I have several signature stories and stories I can use in different ways. I want to give you an example. This last week, I was at a conference, and it's called Rapid. It's a real estate conference, and it's where the associations around all of the United States send their education person or their event person or both to this conference to pick speakers. And the real estate market has a lot of education pieces and a lot of continuing education that's required. And so because they had been paying me to speak at several different conferences, that's one of the bigger places I've been speaking recently, I had some people suggest that I go to it. So I went. Well, I was the only professional speaker there. Everybody else is like, oh, I do this Institute of Education for Realtors, and I do all these things. I'm totally out of my comfort zone, totally out of where I'm supposed to be. I don't know anyone. I'm going there with a dear friend who's my accountability partner and speaks almost solely in that market. But because I've been booked, I'm like, I'll go. As someone who wants to speak or as a professional speaker, you have to put yourself in these positions that can be uncomfortable and difficult. And I basically got to do a speaker showcase for them and then got to speak later. But my signature story, I started out on stage, my first question was, are you the leader you would follow? Because in real estate, they basically are independent. They're basically on their own business, and yet they're not the leader they would follow. They aren't doing the things that they need to do to improve themselves, to attract the business, right? And everyone that's in my audience is people who have a job for the state to hire people to educate their groups and to do personal development and improvement. And every one of them need to be a leader. So I asked that question, and then I followed it up with my signature story about my son when he had his first bout with cancer when he was 9. And I tell my story about going to the hospital, and we have 180 nights in the hospital, and it's just overwhelming. He's 9, he's my oldest, I have 4 kids, and I go into a lot of the pieces of my story. And then I share about the day that I decided it had to be different. I was not the leader I could follow. I was tired. I was overwhelmed. I was frustrated. I was just like scared for my child and his life. He had less than 50% chance of survival. I had all these things going on. And with that, I was not being the leader that he that he could follow or that I could follow. I wasn't being the parent leader or the mother that I needed to be. Even though I was being a good mother and I was right there, I was in the negative. So I talk about taking him to the hospital that day and saying, we're going to do it different. Today, we're just going to start out in the gift shop and we're going to buy a Mylar balloon and we're going to take that balloon and we're going to visit people, other patients, other kids in this children's hospital until we can find the right person for that balloon. And we did. He didn't want to do it. He thought it was dumb. He thought he would out-fool his mother. And so we got in the store and he picked a pink congratulations balloon. Pink. How many times am I going to place a pink congratulations balloon in a children's hospital? Like, never. Who celebrates? This is a hospital that you get air flight, you know, you get to go in an airplane. You only go to this hospital if it's that bad, right? It's not like they deliver babies there. And so we had to visit a lot of people. And I laughed and said, you're almost 10. Maybe we're going to see all the girls, right? And see how that really is. Well, we did find her, and she was 10. She was also there with a brain tumor, and she had just done her last chemotherapy. So there was a party going on. There was like 30 people in her room. There was all kinds of balloons and all kinds of fun. She was the perfect person for this balloon. But that wasn't all we learned. We also visited a little boy that never left the hospital again, would never run in the grass, would never go to school. And the other little boy that just never could leave our hearts was 7. And he had an illness that required him to be to the hospital 21 days in a row. He was from out of state, and his parents could only be with him for one long weekend in the middle. So here he was, flying to the hospital alone, being there alone, and then leaving and flying home alone. 7 years old. Those were the people that made the biggest change, because it took our focus off of ourselves and onto other people. It allowed us to be of service. So I talk about this Mylar balloon. Well, as a speaker, I flew in the day before, and you have to be prepared. I Ubered to the grocery store to get a Mylar balloon, and then Ubered back to have a Mylar balloon for this piece. Then I took the Mylar balloon in this story and walked out into the audience and said, what is your Mylar balloon? How can you improve in your area? What could be that piece for you? And I handed out my book. I handed out the Mylar balloon to the best suggestion that we had. So I involved the audience. So several things from this. Have a signature story. Have one that you can change and adapt. It's the first time I've ever used it with my new book, Hand in Hand, but it was a leadership group that needed leadership. The Mylar balloon got passed the next 3 days. From person to person to person, when they saw an act of service, when they saw something else. The person that got the balloon to begin with his name was Mike, and he had a service dog. And we had sat together and talked the night before. But he said that he needed to show more gratitude. And that won. Everybody voted that that was the winner. We don't think about, they're normal people, right? And they have the same situations that we have. But when you share a story and you share a way for them to look at it differently, that Mylar balloon went through 10 or 15 people. So of 70-ish, maybe 80 people that could hire a speaker, do you think that they will remember the one that had a balloon that got passed over and over and over? I promise you they will.
You know what? I love that you share that, like how to make it interactive and then still be able to bring it back to your message and to your brand. Because the bottom line is when you're speaking somewhere, we want to get a referral to another speaking gig. So I love that it wasn't a self-only thing, that it wasn't just self-perpetuating. It was, hey, I'm teaching the message, I'm getting into their hands, I'm making interactive, and that's going to help them remember for me in the future if they want to hire me again. And that is such a key piece, is when you're doing your keynote, is those different ways of how you can be interactive and how you can engage the audience and whatever meeting planner or whoever else might be there so that they can remember you and your message. So I love that.
Right.
I wanted to hit some of these really quick. So as far as for finding these speaking gigs, and I love that you're like, yep, you start here and you go, what if you've been speaking for a little while? There's some people in here that have been speaking and then they want to branch out. They want to up level. They want to go more professional. What do you recommend for that?
So my biggest thing is to get with the right thing. You asked about masterminds, you asked about speaking coaches. So a couple of ideas for you here. If you are a very experienced speaker and you have, you're ready to that next level, Ty Bennett has a retreat. It's not cheap. It's worth it. He's got one in May. He has a waiting list, but if you are that person, send me a message. I can connect you with Ty Bennett. He's got one in May. It's in Idaho. You go to his cabin. It's a huge house. And you actually go through the steps to take. We had people, I went to this. Ty Bennett's actually my speaking coach that I have hired, and I love his stuff. Ty Bennett is knocking it out of the park. He is booked at least 100 times a year. His fee is in excess of $15,000. And we don't talk fees, but he gets a lot of money and does really well. So that is number one. If you are that person, he will fill up fast if he's not already filled. So
what is the cost for that and how do you reach him?
I'm not positive on the cost. I can connect you with him. If I know your name, I can text him and say, I have somebody interested in your conference, in your retreat. I think it's roughly $2,500. It might be more. I'm not positive on that. But he is definitely, several speakers that have been out there but were ready for the next level showed up to this. We even had a speaker that knew she needed to speak but wasn't speaking. By the time she left, she had a book outline.
Wow.
And he will tell you what needs to be in your speech, the best parts of that. And if you join NSA, the other piece with that is that we video everything. His was videoed on an iPad because we had a bad situation, but we still got it. And those we can go back and watch. So that's another bonus of the NSA piece. If you're not as experienced, another really good one here in the Salt Lake area is called Speak Up. I've been very involved with Speak Up, but they do a very much lower scale as far as financially. It's a cheaper situation to get into, but they will help you do message to magic as well as they do a story magic. They help you identify your story and help you break your story down. That is Bobby Glenn James, and he does that one and does a very good job of it. Carrie White has been that started it. He's way too busy for it right now, but Bobby's been doing it without him, and they do a really good one. They used to do a luncheon where you could take turns speaking on stage and do a competition of a 10-minute speech, and then they do it with judges. I've been a judge a lot there and have helped with that. I haven't done it for about 6 months to a year, but they have good input. It's very inexpensive. They do this retreat and they help you break down your story, and they actually put you in front of the audience. So it's awesome if you're doing some, but you want to take it to the next level. If you're identifying what you speak on, some of those things, that's a really great place. Professional speaker studios out there as well. And some of this you can just find on the internet. You can find on Facebook and stuff. You can do some of those things.
A quick question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say a quick question that was on there about speaking bureaus. I know that Ty's talked about that, and he's with CMI and different things that he's recommended. What do you recommend with the Speakers Bureau and things like that? That's been a question. I know that's really a level when you're much farther along the path. But you
are not even going to get with a Speakers Bureau until you are making money. They
and
don't want you.
I think that's the point to make, that it's such a farther down the path to really get your credibility and really get the experience and show that.
They won't take you until you have logos to show them you've been there, until you have people that have recommended you and paid you, not just you came and spoke and made money from the stage, because I did that for a long time. When I did the shift to corporate, it was really hard because it was like I had spoken on all these stages for free and sold a product or a course. Now, for me, the fastest way to get paid to speak was to have my own event. And ultimately, when you have your own event, you're seen as an event planner, you're seen as a person making decisions, and as a speaker. So you're not just the speaker. When I did my own event, I had a program to sell. We would make a lot of money because I had programs that were built out and sold. So if you don't have a program, look at what kind of a program you would do to do that level. I've got an 8-week program. I can do it every single week, start a new one if I want. I limit it to how many people. I do it rarely now because I'm speaking so much, I don't have the one-on-one time. I do it 3 or 4 times a year. I'm very picky about who I put in it, but it's one of those things that's automated in my system, in my business. So I have 1 or 2 calls with these people and they pay quite a bit of money to be in that. There's ways to do that. As far as a mastermind, my best suggestion is make your own first. You can get 1,000 masterminds out there. All of them want a whole bunch of money. And what I can tell you is you'll probably get more out of it the more you have vested into it. Meaning, the more time and effort you're in with this group, the more you're going to gain. You can pay a lot of money and have them tell you a few things. I think there's some great ones out there. I think Connie's got a great one. I don't think yours is super expensive, but you can get really expensive ones out there. I know Michelle McCullough does a fantastic job with her mastermind. My best mastermind is one that I built. I went to NSA, I built it out. We have 6 speakers, all of us on the level that we're looking for paid speaking and we're recommending each other. I mean, I'm in with Brad Barton and Cordell Norton and people that have been other NSA presidents. I built mine local because that's where I wanted to start. I wanted to have it local. We did meet monthly. We've moved it to quarterly. And we do a Zoom in between. It's been really powerful. Doesn't cost me a dime. But all of us are vested. We all are committed to it. And we put our time into it. Some of the people that wrote their testimonials, or in this case, endorsements of my book, were those people, because I could say, this is what I need. Is I need endorsements for my book. I need it quickly. I need somebody who can read it before it's edited. So there's things with masterminds that way that are very powerful. On how to get on TV. Now, Connie's going to be a lot better than that at this than I will be, but you have to be ready to be on TV. You need a website. You need a one sheet. You need a presence. If you don't have a YouTube channel and you're not creating videos, create videos. Start where you are and be ready for that. Once you're ready, a press release and sending it to the right people, again, Connie is your connection there, is the best way to get on TV. Be on radio shows, be on conferences, be willing to give of your time and be the expert that other people are having on their show, because then it will give you opportunities to be seen and, you know, add those all to your website. I have probably 100 different radio shows. I've got all different interviews. I've got different conferences and different things. When I did my videos to begin with, I brought in another expert and interviewed them, and then it would bring their people to me as well. So find ways to work with other people to build your speaking career and to build you to be better. My best thing is having over 200 videos on YouTube. The second somebody wants you to speak, before they even want you, the second someone says, or hears you're a speaker, they go to YouTube and they go to your website. And from there, they're either going to be interested or determined not to have you. They don't care how long you've had a website, but if you don't have one, you're a nobody in their book. For people who are especially paid speaking, I have to update my website yearly. Like you have to, in this market with people, you have to add the next thing. As a speaker, it helps to have a book. So be looking at what could I have that I can be getting ready, because it adds a lot of value for you to have those things. Now, there's a few speakers out there that don't have a speaker reel video or don't have a book. One in particular is Tiffany Peterson, and she's phenomenal. But she's the only one I know that doesn't have either of those things.
Yes.
And still makes it as a paid speaker. And she laughs all the time and says, I'm not the norm. And she's not. But she came from the background of working with Jack Canfield. She was already in the industry. She trained for years and years. So she already had her foot in the door. For most of us, that doesn't work. So
and on that note, you know, I know Ty has said before the video, I know Karen was saying the one that's in the speaker viewer with him, she was saying the video doesn't even have to be amazing. Like if you just have good video of you speaking, and especially with audience interaction, then that's what they want to see.
Right. Well, and I've seen where I know speakers at NSA that are putting together a speaker reel to become a bigger speaker, because you have to have a speaker reel to go to the next level. I have seen that where you can come to NSA and do a speaker showcase where you get the footage, but for very inexpensive, you can have Tyler put it together and you can give him different footage. You can go to his home and video with him asking you questions and have that interview piece. There's lots of different ways to get video. You can have some of your own friends come over, you guys rent a hotel room, get 10 or 12 people together, strategically stand, you know, put those people and then film with some back of the heads and you in front, and everybody takes a turn. Scramble your people up so you don't have the same heads in your pictures, but you can create your own, and all you did is rented a room for 2 hours. And you can pay Tyler to come in and film it, you know, and he'll pay you, you'll pay him $300 or $400 for 2 hours.
And she's talking about Tyler, who is a part of NSA, and he does editing, film editing. And I think a great point is that they just want to see, how do you speak and how does an audience respond to you? So if they really don't care necessarily how it's happening, they just want to see it. So they've got, you know, 940 submissions for 26 spots or whatever. They just want it quick and they want to see it.
Well, and they want to see it in the first few seconds. They want to see something dynamic in the first few seconds. After that, you already got them. If they stay on more than 10 seconds, more than 30 seconds, it's because they like you. Like if you're going to get them, it's got to be up front. And you have to come across professional. You need to dress modestly. I can't tell you how many times I have men that if they see cleavage, they shut it off.
Wow.
Done. And you will never get in their industry.
Wow.
And that sounds really harsh, but I know a lot of speakers. I go to National Speakers Association, and every year we have short skirts and cleavage hanging out. And I'll tell you what, ask them how much they're getting booked, because they're changing and now they're doing a comedy in a bar instead of leadership on the stage. Yeah. So just be aware that modesty matters. And I want you to take the stage confident and powerful, not I'm a female and you are going to listen to me. Because if you come across as I'm trying to prove that I'm a female and I can do it, you'll never have it. Watch Connie. She'll never come on the stage and act like a powerful woman trying to tell you what she can do. She will always enter the stage with elegance, confidence, and assuredness of knowing that she is helping you to become better.
Wow. Just like we rehearsed. Nice job, Kris. No, just kidding.
Well, does that make sense though? When I take a stage, in fact, this last week, I speak a lot. I'm comfortable speaking, but I'm in front of an audience that I don't even know all their expertise. And all the other people that are watching are like, oh, I'm going to speak on safety, and I'm going to speak on the CE credits of this. I was totally giving, how can I help them be a better person? I gave them nuggets in my time for them to leave changed. And yet, when I was talking to people, they're like, oh my gosh, I loved what you shared, and you're so confident, and you interacted with the audience, and you used your space well, and when stuff didn't go right, it didn't matter if the microphone went out of batteries, like you just kept going. So be professional and know that when you're out there, they watch it all. And the more authentic and real you can be, now you don't need to be on stage and, you know, blubber till you're gonna die, but you can get teary, you can get emotional, you can help walk them through that. When I talk about my twin brother's suicide, or I talk about my son with cancer, and there's a catch in my throat, it's not planned, but when it happens, it actually draws them into the emotion more. But then I'm able to step through it. Make sure that you move your audience. If you move your audience to an emotional low, you've got to bring them back up. You've got to have some humor, some fun. Even if you just raise the energy, have them stand up, have them move a little bit, but shift your energy of what you're talking about. Because so much of the time we share these personal stories, and they are stories that will move your audience. But for me, most of my stories are heavy. It's challenges and trials and things that we got through. It's 35 years of being an entrepreneur that gives me credibility and gives me that piece that I could be the expert there helping them. But at the same time, I still have to be powerful and confident, because they don't want you to try to prove yourself as a woman. That's a big mistake that a lot of women make, because when you try to prove yourself as a woman rather than earn the respect, you come across crazy.
So true. Oh my gosh, I love you have touched on all of these things, because I wanted to talk about at the end about the do's and don'ts of speaking as a woman, because it is different as a woman. There's some nuanceical things that we have to be aware of, and you have hit on those. I love that. Are there any other questions? I just wanted to quick address these really quickly. She asked about NSA. Is there a yearly cost? And there is, isn't there, that you can, if you choose not to just be a guest, there is a yearly cost.
There is. And it's like $435 or something like that. It's a one-time fee. It gets you the all access pass, which includes your dinners. And right now we park for free. There's some different things that it does encompass. It gets you some discounts on other things. Like if we do an all-day activity that there's a cost, you'll get a discount by having that membership. And it's actually cheaper to buy that than to pay every month. So there is a yearly fee, but there are benefits to that fee. It also gives you an e-speakers account, which if you do want to be a speaker, it's one of the first places they check is they go to e-speakers and they type your name in. If you're not on e-speakers, a lot of times they won't even look any further. So it does give you an account that's included in your membership. So you are on e-speakers and have a profile there. There's a lot of benefits, and outside of the benefits, it's the relationships that, bar none. You will hear Dan Clark say, the 5 people you spend the most time with, you're an average of those 5. Like, and he'll talk about, you know, you'll spend any fee and go to great lengths to spend time with those people. I want you to think about that. I wrote a book, and yet Dan Clark wrote my foreword. Like, I look like a rock star because of Dan. And when I'm at this conference, I actually handed out my book and to different people that were very interested in me speaking and bringing me into their associations. And I had 4 of the 6 people knew exactly who Dan Clark was. It's on the cover of my book. Talk about credibility. They're just like, oh my goodness, Dan Clark wrote your foreword. So it's the relationships. It's the, you know, who you spend time with. You know, my dearest friends are, you know, are there. And number 1 is get an accountability partner. I have had accountability partners over the years. Last year at our NSA Influence, our yearly conference, I met Cheryl, and Cheryl was also in our chapter. And I was like, whatever, you never come. I've never seen you. And she was like, well, I came to this because I'm going to be getting my CSP and it's required and blah, blah, blah. She and I committed 2 days later to be accountability partners. We came home, we did 50 goals in 50 days. Now we are both very, very driven, and we're both empty nesters right now. So we have the time and have the expertise and time to spend in our businesses and do this. We also know how to play. So 50 goals in 50 days was a concert, and overnight at the hotel, pedicures, like 24 hours of play. Then we hit more goals and hit a bunch of goals that when winter conference was, we went early and went to Disney World and spent 3 days playing before the conference. Now we know how to play hard, but I've never had anybody push me as good as Cheryl pushes me, and yet be so supportive and be able to do that. And that's the best thing you can do, is get a really, really strong accountability partner that you have a check-in with. We check in almost daily. That's not required, but check in weekly, have a monthly lunch, see where you're going, and have somebody that at that conference, when I met her, I had only known her at that point for 24 hours. And when I committed to be this accountability partner with her, I said, I will love you, but I will kick your butt the whole way. I will not be afraid to call you on your crap. And as bold as that sounds, that's what you need. You need someone that's not going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry that you didn't get. They're going to say, okay, so you didn't get picked for that one. What one are you going for now? Like, they'll hug you and love on you when it's rough, and speaking is rough. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks it's this great thing. It's hard. There's a lot of no's to get a yes, but it's worth it. And if you have a message to share, I speak to thousands of people all the time, and I know I'm changing their lives, and that's why I do it. So if your why is big enough, it's worth it.
Oh, I love that. If your why is big enough, it's worth it. That's so awesome. Okay, just a couple more questions. Do you have situations where you include God in your story and others you don't include in that piece? If so, what do you replace that piece with?
Okay, so that can be very tricky. I speak corporately, so I do not use God very much, although I am 100% committed to God. I use your higher power or universe or whatever that is for you. If you reference God, number one, look at your market. Who do you want to be speaking to? Because if you're referencing God and using stories of a higher power, that's more of a spiritual and more of a personal development side, not a leadership or corporate, even though that's a big piece. For me, I had to go to, if I use that, it's used in these other realms, and give them the option. If that's not something you believe in, then the equivalent.
That's good. And I think it's a very universal way of doing that. People don't get offended, but just not overusing that in a talk that is more predominantly business related.
Well, if you want to get paid, you have to take church out of it.
Okay. That's a really great point.
That is just what you have to do. I was at an event put on by Ty Bennett. Someone else was called on, and they shared a spiritual story, and it was a corporate event. It killed it. Oh, the entire day. It killed it. He got a lot of pushback, and it was a really, really, really high-end speaker that brought that piece in, but it was just not what's
appropriate.
But just know that there are hundreds of thousands of places to speak spiritually and to speak with your connection and your belief system, but it won't be a career paid event.
There's one thought on that, and that's like a Melissa Radke or those kinds of things where they are going in the Christian market and they are actively speaking in the Christian market, and people pay for them to speak in that Christian market. They know what they're getting. So I love that you make that.
But it's very rare.
Yeah, it's appropriate to your audience and what your audience is seeking and wanting. So I love that. The other thing is, she said, what things do you highlight on your website? And what's Tyler's last name? Is it McClint? What's his last name?
Tyler McCullough.
McCullough, that's it. So Tyler McCullough
is a really, really good video and very, very economical. I've
got his information, girls. I can post it, so don't worry about it. But yeah, he's good.
He's very, very good. He just recently moved to Vineyard from Lehigh, so he's Utah County, and he's phenomenal. Awesome. The Ty Bennett, if you have any interest, let Connie know. Connie, text me.
I will.
I can get in touch with. I have Ty Bennett's cell number and can get in touch with him and find out if and I'm not even sure of the date. If you want to see anything about it on Facebook, go to Ty Bennett and look down, 8 or 10 spots. He's got a video about it.
Awesome.
And I think on that he says when that is. but that came out a few days ago. And again, he has a waiting list, so I don't know what that's like, but I can pull some strings there because we are pretty tight.
That is awesome.
Bobby Glenn James is another one. If you need a reference to get into his stuff, drop my name, tell him that I sent you. And if you can't find his information, reach out. Feel free to give them my information, Connie, and reach out, and I can help connect you with the Speak Up group.
Perfect.
That is a very good group that is totally works on skill and stuff. A lot of people like to start out with Toastmasters and a few things like that. Those can be really awesome, but they're only going to get you to a certain level. So if you've got the time to be there every week, and if you've got the resources to be involved in that, that's great. NSA is once a month, and it's phenomenal content. Every time you leave, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that was so worth it. Even if you're paying each month, it's unbelievable, the people that we do bring in. So that's a great way to be involved. To get experience, start filming yourself, start putting videos up, start doing some of those things, and let people know what you're doing. The fastest way for me to get more traction was to open my mouth and tell people, like, I'm speaking. I would love to come speak at your thing. Get involved to where people like Connie are calling you and having you speak for their group. Pretty soon it builds, and you start to have credibility.
I love it. And we had one other question. NSA meets up in Salt Lake. Right now it's at the Doty building up there. So it meets up there once a month, and it usually starts about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it goes until about 8-ish. But you can come and go as you need, whatever that works. But since it's once a month, and they really pack it in, and I will say this, out of all of the NSA chapters, this is not just cheesy. We have one of the most stellar chapters. They're incredible people, and you guys get up close and personal with these guys all the time. It is really incredible. So talk about leapfrogging. If you're connecting with the NSA people, you are just already in the mix, and will get that kind of fast-paced into it, faster, quicker, better, stronger, because you're with such high-power people.
Well, and we want you to be successful. Like, that's, I am vice president, just about to be president-elect. I get nothing out of people being there. I am 100% volunteer. But get in there and get involved, because I have a lot more credibility as the vice president of NSA in our chapter, one of the best chapters in the whole, nation. I have more credibility because I'm willing to serve, and I'm willing to be there and to get involved. And that came from just going. And we have people that we put on the board every year. So it's a great place to be. It's great to find a good accountability partner. It's great to find a team to have as a mastermind. We have at least 100 people every month. So
great people. Really, I had not planned on talking so much about NSA. I just want you guys to know this really is not like an infomercial on it. But when you're talking about what's some of the best ways, you're talking about a whole spectrum, and you find everything there. But you really do have this conglomeration of, if you want to do something with your speaking, that's how you're going to fast track it. So it's a beautiful way to do it. Kris, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
So wonderful. Oh, and great stuff. I love what you've shared. And Kris, if they want to talk to you more, if they want to connect and reach out to you, where could they reach you?
So the best place to reach me is kris@allthingspossible.biz. I know that sounds really crazy. I have a whole story about the .com, but that's my email, kris@allthingspossible.biz. And go to my website at krisbarney.com. Go to the comments, send me a comment. I mean, there's 100 ways to find me. I'm on LinkedIn as Kris Barney. I'm on Facebook as Kris Barney. It's not hard to find me, and reach out. I would love to be able to give you any ideas. I know when I ran through these questions, I came up with just some ideas on things to do. I literally got my start with my own events. So if you're looking to start and need to make money right away, that's the best thing, because until you have experience, you won't be a paid speaker. So do your own events, and it can start small, but you can also film it, and you can use the film, and you can say, I'm speaking and I'm doing this. It's a really easy way to learn what you need to know make some money, and prepare yourself to be a better speaker, because being a better speaker is experience. It's doing it in front of people, even when it's uncomfortable. And that's how you become better at it.
That's exactly it. Embrace the uncomfortable. I love it.
Out of your comfort zone.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank you.
for
I'm going to
having
talk
me.
to them for a few minutes about some things that are kind of housekeeping, but just everyone, can we just give her a wave as a thank you and just let her know how much we appreciate her being here today. Kris, thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
That's awesome.
Thank you, dear. Oh, ladies, you guys got such great stuff. So just remember, this will be recorded and you guys can go back and you can watch this. You just have to go and turn it off on your side. So just click out. Yeah. You guys can go back and watch this and get all the scoops and take the notes that you want to. If there's any questions that you felt like you didn't get answered, you just shoot them to me. I'm going to put a Facebook post. One of the, somebody asked, would you like to go to the actual NSA? It's actually this Wednesday. If anyone's interested in going, I'm going to be up there early, so I wouldn't be able to go like kind of en masse, but you could meet me there. I believe it starts at 3. And the speaker is one that I'm not actually familiar with, which is kind of unusual, but it's rubber ducks and dump trucks, and it's improving your story, I believe, in telling story in your speaking. And so, like I said, it includes dinner. It's 3, I think 3 until about 8. And I'd be happy to I can come out in the foyer and I can bring you in. It's just like a big room, and it's like in the hospital, but it's like a conference area room, and kind of get you settled and help you feel comfortable if you want to do that. I can find out from Colette, she's the secretary at NSA, just what you need to do there. But if you want to go to the NSA, the NSA Mountain West chapter, if you go to that.org, you'll see, it'll say, hey, we're doing this, our NSA meeting, and it says, want to come? Are you interested? And if you click on it, it will take you all the way through. Are you coming as a guest? And then you can pay right there if you want, or you can pay at the door. It's really easy to do. So you can come and kind of check it out. Yeah.
So Wednesday meeting tomorrow?
I mean, tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next one, it's usually is it the second Wednesday of the month? I think it's pretty much the second Wednesday of the month. What is tomorrow? Or third Wednesday. I can't remember what today is. That's how the week's been for me. So whatever it is this week, yeah, it's third. Whatever it is this week, that's usually when it is. It's like the third Wednesday. So you can kind of plan ahead for that. And we have, you guys, we have Ty Bennett, Jason Hewlett. I mean, Dan Clark just came to the Get Paid Speak event. I mean, that's how I got to know Dan. I mean, it's like, it's amazing. You really do have an amazing experience. But I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. Did you guys feel like that was helpful? Did you get good information on that? Some good stuff? Awesome. We'll also have another speaker, Sydney Jakes, next week, I believe we're doing. She's going to talk about different kinds of speaking that you can do to get paid, and maybe doing trainings and involving other ways that are not just your regular way of doing speaking, so you can branch out in the way that you can get paid for your speaking and make it so it's something you can do and get paid for, instead of it just taking a lot of time and energy, which we have to move on from that. You get this the free, and then I don't know, I still do a certain percentage of all my speaking is definitely pro bono. I always do free, but you get to choose and move on from there, because if you're going to do this, it's got to be worth your time and energy. So really quickly, just 2 quick things. One, the message checker. Today, you should have your speaking plan and your speaking outline done, just so you know that you're kind of in rhythm with what's going on. If you don't stress it. Don't go eat the whole pan of brownies. It's okay. It's okay. So just move as you move. It's okay. You've got this for the 12 weeks. You use it as you need it, as your body and soul is ready for it. It will still be here. You can come back to the information later, so it's okay. So just move forward as it's coming to you. Now, I'm getting this from a lot of people. Well, I started with this, and then I've ended up with this. Or I've got like 3 ideas for having like, okay, different keynotes or whatever. So what I would suggest is keep a file, a Google Doc, put it all on there, barf it all out, and then pray. Let it simmer, see what keeps coming back. Move on what you feel to write on. Even if you're like, well, that's really not the thing that's interesting to me. Doesn't matter. Move on what you feel called to move on. If you're not sure, pick one and start, okay? So don't make this more complicated. Really try to just choose something and move forward on it. Now, I will say this. There's going to be times where you're going to get in, and it's going to be that Jeffrey R. Holland thing where him and his son were driving in a pickup and they come to a fork in this desert road and they're like, I don't know. They pray about it and they say, oh, let's go to the right. We both feel good about the right. They went to the right, and about 200 feet down, it's like it's a dead end. We're like, yeah. So they go back and they start driving down the other road. That's the only two options. And the son turns to him and says, so why did we both feel good about that one? Like, what was up with that? And he gave the most classic response. I use it all the time. But do you remember? He said, maybe it's so that we knew for sure that wasn't the right road. And we didn't have to go down too far to know for sure. You're going on a country road. You ever done that? I've done that. You're driving. I'm like, am I on the right road here? I have no idea. And then you're like half an hour into it before you go, I'm on the wrong road. So think about that. You're trying these different paths. And if you're just really paying attention, he won't let you go too far before you're like, I don't think this is the right one. Now, a little caveat with that. That doesn't mean just because it got hard that it's the wrong thing. So go with it. The more that you can complete something, the better off you're going to be, because you'll have gone through the process and you'll have all these file drawers of what that looks like. Get the idea, do the outline, do my speaking plan, do the outline, do the rough, do the blah, 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 blah. Now you'll have an actual file drawer system, and now you'll know what to expect. So it'll go faster and quicker every single time you do it. So just be aware, if you can finish something, that's great. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be stellar. You've just practiced. You've practiced these principles. That's key. Now you can go back and you can really work it the way you want to work it. So don't judge yourself. Just move forward on what you feel strongly to do, even if it's out of your comfort zone. Just move forward on it, and then feel it out and see, wow, I do feel like I like this piece. No, there's a gap here. I need to figure out this credibility piece. Okay, I've got to get more credibility. I've got to do this. That brings me to another point. So people were asking about, okay, what about my credentials and things like that? And what if I don't have a lot of credentials? So here's the deal. If you don't have a lot of credentials in the thing that you're speaking on, get them, okay? That's the point, is that's why I have you start with your message and what you're writing about. So now you can offer to speak about it. You keep your ears open. You make a list of people that you know do something with this. You go online, you look for associations, and then you offer to speak for free. Hey, I have this experience with this, and I would love to teach some powerful principles on how people can deal with X, Y, and Z. Do you have a need for a speaker in the upcoming 6 to 9 months? That's how you roll. A lot of people get started speaking at church, speaking for a nonprofit, speaking for people, because they've always got their hand out. They don't pay people. They generally don't pay people for speaking. So that's a great place to start. Start thinking of, if I don't have the credentials, then how can I get them? What are the opportunities that I can start on, the low-hanging fruit that will help me get out and just get in front of audiences? Now, that's presupposing that you've already practiced. We've already done your keynote and you've practiced like you're doing this month, right? You just don't want to go out there and wing it, because then they're going to remember you, but not in a good way. So you want to make sure that you've got those pieces in place and you're doing that timeline. But start thinking now. Start thinking now, who is it I want to? And then if you can include with that people that's low-hanging fruit, then think bucket list. Who do I really want to speak with? What's my bucket list? Ty Bennett talks about his bucket list all the time, and he just did one. He just did the $1 Million Roundtable, and they only choose, I think it's 2 people a year or something. They have so many submissions for that. So he just did his bucket list. So have a bucket list of who you want. Maybe your bucket list, I just want to get through a speech and not like trip all over my words and not have people throw things at me. That's a great bucket list. That's awesome. So just keep adding those things that you want to work up to so you can keep moving yourself forward, okay? So right now, roughing your keynote is the focus this week. Rough that keynote, okay? So by Thursday, you should have some kind of a rough version of your keynote. Now remember, don't get mired in the details, okay? Just write it out, get out the main key points you want with the main stories, with the main quotes or supporting things. By the time you have that outline, you got a lot of stuff on there, people. So you really shouldn't have this big stress about how much, oh my God, all this 45-minute keynote that I want to put in there, right? It really should start filling in itself. And then it really is a matter of you getting set with this, okay, this feels like it flows. I feel like this story makes sense, and this quote supports that, and this statistic helps to prove the credibility of it, and this testimonial or this experience of somebody's friend or whatever really nailed it, really sealed the deal. Okay, good. I've got this like outline. So once you start getting that rough, that's what we want. We want you to focus on the rough, okay? All right, Aaliyah.
Okay, when she says like there's no market for Christian, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I don't necessarily agree with her. I think she's talking more of like, okay, business stuff. But
Like if you want to make $1 million.
are you kidding me? Melissa makes bank, okay? Because they've got all these arena conference things going on, and there is a ton of opportunity out there. Now, that being said, you're not just going to pop in that tomorrow, and that's exactly right. So she does make the very valid point that that's really not, it's a lot like if you're any religion, Catholic, Latter-day Saint, whatever, you don't get paid, right? You just speak from your soul out of the goodness of your heart. But we're talking about when you get up to those higher levels that yes, there's conferences that are Christian based and they're Christian theme, but they bring in high power speakers. So,
okay.
Is there an NSA in California? Absolutely. There's NSAs in every state, as far as I'm aware, unless there's some like, I don't know, maybe Rhode Island, but I'm sure there's one up there. So you just have to check out the NSA, the national website, and it will show you where the NSA is. The closest NSA is in your area. And it's really worthwhile. And every chapter is different, but they generally are just, they're really good and they want to funnel you into those national experiences. Uh-huh.
Me?
Yep.
Okay. I just had one more question about the outline on our keynote.
Yes.
The beginning, what do you call it? The very first thing, the catcher, or what do you call it?
I'm looking to see which one you're talking about. The outline? You mean the topic or the title or?
1 second.
Are you talking about the speaking plan or the outline?
The keynote site outline, the starter hook, the hook.
Oh, the hook. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Leslie. On the hook, is that where you can kind of use your story, a little part of your story?
Part of your story. So
okay.
Do not fire hose them with the whole story, okay? And if you have a signature story, I would so encourage you not to start with the signature story, like the whole thing. So, for example, Michelle McCullough, one time, she started a story at NSA like this. She said, we went to dinner one night, and I got out of the car, and at my feet was a $100 bill. And I thought, what do I do with this $100 bill? And she said, and so I want to share an experience with you of what happened kind of preceding that. So she gives us that hook. Then she goes and talks about how she was at a place in speaking a year before. She said, it got me thinking about a year before. And this is what happened a year before. She said, we were so poor and so not able to make money speaking that she said, I literally went and spoke somewhere and I was just going to sleep in the airport that night because I couldn't afford a hotel room. So she shares this whole experience. Then she says, then she comes back, back to this $100 bill. And she said, I'm looking at it. What do I do with that? And she said, you know what? I gave it away because I didn't need it. Because in that year, I had done this, 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 and this in my speaking business to get to a place where I was being paid for my speaking so that I did not need it. Powerful? Oh yeah, I still remember it. So she started with the hook of what was happening, didn't answer it, filled in with the things she was going to teach about to get people interested in what she was going to teach. Well, what did you do over that year of X, Y, and Z, right? And then she answered the hook so you're not waiting too long, and then you're ready to hear the other things she wants to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you use the hook and then pieces of your story to kind of make your 3 points?
Yeah, you can. Now that's not hard and fast. You can't. Now some people, they tell a story and it's a short story right at the beginning and it's just a hook to get them into that seed bed, getting kind of primed for the topic that they want to do. But you're not going off on a 10-minute story. If you're telling a beginning story, that they want to jump right in. So you're hooking them with a quick story and then you're getting right into what you're doing. I really do like piecing, but that's me. I love piecing or I love bookending. We call it bookends. And you get that, you close the loop. That's another phrase that you're going to hear in speaking. You start with something and you kind of prime the pump. You teach about it. You show and prove all the reasons why. You give the credibility. You seal the deal with all of the reasons why they need to do what you're telling them to do. And then you bookend it at the end with coming back to that story. It may be that you're finishing the story, or it may be that you're like, now the rest of the story. So I told you this story, and 5 years later, this is what happened here. That's like with her saying a year later, that's where it was.
Okay. So the evidence at the end can be the rest of the story?
Oh yeah.
Or someone else's story that lines up with it.
And it's just that satisfaction of closure. You want to help them feel that sense of closure of, wow, I got all those, like I talk about hitting the beats. It's like having a beautiful meal. It satiates all those tastes. That's really what you're doing with a speech. That's really what you're doing with your presentation. You're satiating all of those tastes emotionally, mentally, physically even. You're just satiating almost. It's like when you get done with a good book and you go, that was a great book. That was a great movie. Because what they did is they hit all those expectations. They hit all those things. There's a reason why there's formulas, because you kind of have to hit them. So wonderful. Okay, on another thought really quickly on the weekly goal. So darlings, I want you to know the weekly goal sheet is very important. So do set a weekly goal and write it out on the goal sheet, even if you don't turn it into me. And do not beat yourself up if you don't do that, because I'm guessing, cookies to a donut, if you are following what I'm doing, you're doing a goal. You're fulfilling the goal, even if you're not writing it actually on the sheet. Now, studies have shown, and I am a huge proponent, write it down. On your weekly goal sheet, hang it up, take a picture on your phone, whatever, make sure it's foremost in your mind, because you're gonna forget. If you're a mom, you're gonna forget all about it, and you're gonna be busy in the day-to-dos, and you've gotta do the fires, put out the fires and all that. So don't discount it, but don't also get stressed out about it if you didn't actually put it in on paper. The question to ask yourself is, am I moving forward? If you're moving forward, then just go with it. That means that that little detail was just gonna put you over the edge, and that's okay, you're still moving forward. So that's good. The second point I wanna make is adjust. If you set a weekly goal and you're into it 3 days and you realize that's not gonna work for me, then just adjust. There's no little fairy that's gonna come bonk you on the head because you changed your goal. That's what we want, is intuition. We want you to be intuitive about your life. So adjust it. So for me, if you read my post about Saturday night, I plan to do my whole revisions on my book, right? That's gonna go, I'm getting it ready for publishing. And I had planned to do that, but took a detour, ended up going to the Latter-day Saint Temple, and I had a whole amazing experience with that for the evening. And so it totally different, totally different. Did I stress? No. Today, I'm gonna put more time into that. It's okay, it's fine. I'm still moving forward. So just allow yourself to adjust. The last thing is the message checker. So does anybody feel like they want me to go through this quickly right now, or do you want me to wait until Thursday? We have another guest on Thursday that is going to talk about edits and revisions. So raise your hand, we're going to do it by majority. Raise your hand if you want me to talk about the message checker today. Raise your hand if you want me to talk about it on Thursday. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we will talk about it on Thursday. The thing I don't want you to do is lose focus on writing your rough. So just stay focused on barfing that out, okay? And Leslie or anybody else that wants to do it, this message checker is in your downloads in your member vault. So just go print it off and read it. So it's really self-explanatory. Like I always check it with my assistants and they're like, yeah, I totally got what you were saying. So really great. So just print it off and use it while you do your keynote, okay? The thing I don't want is I would love for you to read it and then write, but don't keep looking at it while you're writing because you're gonna not write. So write. So look at it beforehand so you get a file drawer of, oh, I wanna make sure I have these kind of pieces maybe, and then write. And then if you take your break or whatever, you can look at it again before you start writing again. But don't like keep interrupting yourself because you're not gonna get anything done. Does that make sense? Okay, all right, great juicy stuff. Those that are watching, I know it's a longer period of time, but it's been so worth it. You guys are getting so much awesome content. I can't hardly stand how excited I am about the content you're getting. This is really a $5,000 course. You guys should know this. It's like incredible what you're getting and the expertise that you're getting. So I am thrilled at seeing you move forward and being able to take advantage of all this good, juicy stuff. So do as you can, move forward, write the rough. Remember, this week is write the dang thing. So get it written, okay? And if you have any questions, you just put them on the Facebook group, and that's the best place. I don't always see you guys when you text me or whatever, and I try to keep that a little bit separate so that I'm not overwhelmed with that. So just put it on the Facebook group and know that I will respond, okay? Yes, the message checker is meant to be read through before you start writing because it's gonna be like, okay, do you have all these things in here? It's to check it after your message, but it's wise to read it before so you don't have to go back and put it in. So my message is my passion, part of my core truth. My audience is already trying to solve this problem. Are they? Is this even the thing I should be writing about? I can do an elevator pitch of my idea. My audience knows what to do with my message. As you're reading through that, you're gonna be able to say, oh, okay, I'm getting off on a tangent. The story about Aunt June, it's a great story, but it's not moving them. So I gotta stay focused, okay? So we'll go through that a little bit more on Thursday. Just right now, barf out what you really want to tell people in your keynote. If you were to die tomorrow, what is that thing that you wanted to share in your keynote? What are those things that you want them to know? Get it out there. Even if it's 25 pages, doesn't matter. Get it out there. Okay? Any last questions? All right. Go to it. Go to it. You can do it. And we're going to see you on Thursday. Keep me posted on Facebook, okay? And interact, share with each other, boost each other up. That's what we do. All right. Love you.